What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of Stocks and Flicks. I'm Jeremy Bryan, and this is powered by Indie Wealth. Today, we're going to talk about Splash. Splash is a movie you probably don't think much about. It's from 1984, so it's old, but so am I, so that's fine. It's a movie that, frankly, I don't think gets talked about a lot anymore with regard to the top comedies of all time or anything like that. But I think it's absolutely hilarious, and so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. And how we're going to try to weave that basket or thread that needle, whatever I'm trying to do here. What we're going to try to talk about is self-inflicted wounds. Basically, really, as investors, we do dumb things. We do dumb things from time to time based upon our human nature. Humans and investing don't often tie perfectly together. And so we're going to talk about that through a clip on Splash. But first, let's start with the movie itself. Again, it stars Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks looks like he's about 12 years old in this one. And the other one is Daryl Hannah. Daryl Hannah will probably make a few appearances on here, frankly, from Wall Street will definitely be on this. That's one of my favorite Wall Street movies. So we'll definitely hit on that one. But she was a pretty big fixture in the 80s. So she'll have a couple spots on here. The other one not mentioned in the starring here is John Candy, who I will talk about a little later, who I think is the star of the show in this movie by far. It's directed by Ron Howard. I can go even older school for you. Feel free for anybody under 30 to stop listening for a few minutes, but Ron Howard was in Happy Days. He was the star of Happy Days. So that's Richie Cunningham directing movies here. And he became honestly just as famous, probably maybe even a little bit more famous for being a director rather than an actor. But he's been in Hollywood forever. What's the story? The story is a young man is reunited with a mermaid. We're a strange premise. I agree with you all here. But it is basically a guy who I think he's in his mid to late 20s, which makes me laugh because he's talking about how he'll never get married and his life is basically over because he's never going to find the love of his life. And the guy's like 26 years old. I don't think he's playing a whole heck of a lot older than that, which makes me laugh, but that's the 80s. So he falls in love with her and, she's exposed and all that other stuff. It's a good movie. It's a fun watch. It's easy to get through. I think I'm pretty sure it's less than 2 hours. So it's not a huge time commitment. It's not going to be on your greatest movies of all time classics, but there are some hilarious lines in it. And the other one not mentioned on here, but will be mentioned in the favorite quote is I think Eugene Levy's really funny in it too. So you got Tom Hanks, you got John Candy and Eugene Levy all doing various things, which are pretty darn funny. The fun fact, I just enjoyed this. There were a few fun facts that I found on this one, but this one made me laugh is that apparently John Candy was pretty professional under normal circumstances, always on time, does his thing, does his work, and then goes home. In this instance, though, he did show up late one day because he got hammered with Jack Nicholson at a bar one night and he kept buying him drinks. I gotta say, if I own Indie Wealth, but if Jack Nicholson was offering to buy me drinks at a bar too, I'd probably miss the next day's meeting. So I just think it's pretty funny that him and John Candy were at a bar one night getting drunk together. I think that's great. My favorite quote on here is from Walter Kornbluth. Walter Kornbluth is played by Eugene Levy, who there's another scene that I didn't use, which actually makes me laugh maybe just as hard as this next scene I'm going to show you. But he's at the dentist and he gets Novocaine in his leg. And so they're running around and all of a sudden his leg goes dead. And so he's just kind of like limping his leg around. It's a sight gag. So me explaining it's not as funny as actually seeing it. So again, if you want to see it, go see the movie. But the funny quote, when I'm a really nice guy, if I had friends, you could ask them. I just think that's a pretty solid Eugene Levy line and he delivers it pretty well. So without further ado, here is the clip that from Splash that I chose that I'm going to try to tie the thread to the market. Enjoy.
I'll serve. You hold a beer, that'll be your handicap.
Oh, we're going to play?
Yeah. I'm going to teach you a lesson in humility.
All right, wait.
Humility 101. You all set?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All
Now that is funny. John Candy is honestly one of my favorites. I think he's funny in pretty much everything he does. He always brings it. But this, I can watch this clip over and over and over again and still laugh from it. I just think it's hilarious. I think he set it up perfectly. The other thing to know, and this was going to be in the fun facts, but I figure I'll just do fun fact 2.0, is he did that on the first take. And this was the day after he had gotten drunk with Jack Nicholson at the bar. So he was late this day, comes on, does this in one take. What a hero. John Candy, solid guy. So how do I tie this to the market? I'm going to tie it through this, is try to avoid the racquetball. Try not to do self-inflicted wounds to yourself. Really, from that perspective, what does that mean? Is, again, what I talked about before is that humans have a general nature that probably hinders their investment rather than helps. We do a lot of things that tend to be not advantageous to our long-term investing approach. And it's not important that you know all of these things by any stretch of the imagination. You don't need to know what every bias is. And I'm not even going to list them all here. Confirmation bias, availability bias, these kinds of things. Those are fancy terms for things that saying we do dumb things from time to time. But if you think about it, I mean, some of these make a lot of sense. Is that confirmation bias, is that we read things where, oh, yeah, that makes sense with my worldview, so therefore that's true, but it's against, we read other things that may not agree with what your current thought process is, and you tend to ignore those things, and you tend to only focus on the stuff that makes sense to you and agrees with your position. That is confirmation bias. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Another one, loss aversion bias, is, and I suffer from this too, and I will tell you absolutely that professional investors across the board fall prey to these things just as much as retail investors. There is no question. I've been in this game for 25 years now. I've seen a lot of investors. I've been in hedge funds. I've been in wealth management shops. Everybody falls prey to these. It's just a question of, can you get out of that spiral, recognize that you're doing these kinds of things and try to change your behavior. The good ones can, the bad ones tend to not be able to. So think about loss aversion. Loss aversion is one I actually suffer from, that I have to get myself out of from time, is that, and this goes for all walks of life for me, and this is why I don't really gamble much, is that a loss tends to feel much worse than any gain I've ever had. It went this way in sports for me too, is that I always felt much worse after losses than felt good after wins. It's just that, it's in my nature. It's my human nature to say that, the times that are bad are really bad and the times that are good are okay. I have to fight that myself, and saying, try to stay on that even keel, is that we have both good and bad times, but you react in a similar fashion. You don't try to, you don't make bad decisions because you feel horrible about the losses that you're experiencing. And you don't feel the high highs, right? You don't kind of continually chase that rush for the thing and take higher aggressive risks because you can't avoid those losses. It's one that I struggle with, and I think a lot of investors struggle with. But again, I'm not going to go through all of these. Just really understand that we all have tendencies, and there's several different ones. And honestly, a lot of them work together to make us worse investors than we are over a longer period of time. So how do we battle that? Our opinion is planning reduces a lot of the impact on this. Strategic investment plans really can kind of get us out of this spiral, if you will. It has the ability to say, okay, I have loss aversion, or this, I have availability bias. What I just read, I need to make a move. There's such that need to saying, based upon this, I need to do this, this, and this. Planning tells you that no, under most circumstances, you don't need to do anything, because you've got your plan taken care of. Your long-term trajectory is taken care of via the investment plan. You have a short-term plan that takes care of your recurring expenses and anything coming up within a year. You have your intermediate term plan, which takes care of replenishing those short-term assets over a longer period of time. But also, if you have something coming up in 3 to 5 years where you're buying a house, or you're buying a boat, or those kinds of things, or you have a big capital project, if you're an institution, these kinds of things are in that intermediate term. You have a plan for that as well. And then lastly, your long term, your growth, your legacy, what you're saving your money for over an extended period. That's your growth bucket. And that's the strategy that you're going to implement in there. So by doing that, by having those time frames assessed in the proper manner, having your risk dialed into the proper time frames and the assets within there, that is the strategic plan. A lot of these biases are going to try to pull you out of that plan. And, oh, I have to do this. Again, I have to do that based upon your mentality. Well, you have to fight that, and the plan can help you do that. My best approach is that when I'm feeling some of these things, or when I'm seeing myself doing some of these biases, I go back and I read the plan. Where am I at? Am I adjusted? Does it need tweaking from the plan's perspective? Am I out of alignment with what I need from my goals? If not, then chances are, unless it's a true opportunity, no changes are needed. So by using a strategic plan, you can avoid some of these biases and avoid that racquetball that John Candy got hit by. So I hope this was helpful. I had fun with it. I think that splash is one of my favorite clips of all time. So tune in next week, where we'll have our next movie and our next market subject. But until then, take care, and we'll see you next time.